viewed as an education president?
Well, I'd certainly like to be viewed as an education president. Let me be very clear. I think that the role of education is first a mom and dad deal. Secondly, it's a state deal. It's ultimately a federal deal only in the sense that the federal government's primary role should be to encourage and to enlist the best practices that are being done in the local communities and around the states. I don't want to see us have a federal mandate, one-size-fits-all, centralized federal government coming up with an education curricula for every student in every state, pushing it down from the top down. It really needs to come from the bottom up. That having been said, a lot of misunderstanding about No Child Left Behind. A lot of people want to throw it out completely, but it did something that needed to be done. It gave a new focus on each child as an individual. And I really commend the president for this. He takes a lot of hits for many things. He needs to be commended for wanting to say that every child in every school is important as an individual, not just as a part of a larger group. There are some problems with No Child Left Behind, particularly in two areas. One, there's not maybe a strong enough way to account for schools that have disproportionate numbers of kids who have disabilities or for whom English is a second language, or kids who have come into the school a few days before the test is taken and aren't adequately prepared. Their test scores can skew the results of the school and put the school on the need for improvement list, and it really might not be appropriate for that to happen. So that can be adjusted. The other thing is a very positive thing was that music and art programs were built into the core curriculum as part of the overall standard. But the downside was that they were not part of the measuring effort, and therefore a lot of schools, because they weren't going to be evaluated or held accountable for music and art programs, simply started cutting them. And it had the opposite effect it was supposed to have. No Child Left Behind should have created more music and art education opportunities for students. It in fact resulted in fewer. It wasn't the fault of No Child Left Behind. In this case, it was the fault of local districts who didn't follow the core curriculum because they thought they could get away since they weren't going to be evaluated. I believe music and art curriculum are critical. In fact, I've said it this way: they're not expendable, extracurricular, or extraneous. They're essential. And the reason, and I can give a whole hour speech on this, and I don't have time today, and I won't, but education is only a true education if we're developing both the left and right brain of the student. Left brain is great for math and science and all the logical forms of education, but knowing what to do with what a student has learned is as important as what they've learned. Music and art, teaching the stimulation of the creative side, is absolutely critical to a total, well-rounded education. And by the way, music students do 20 points better on SAT scores than non-music students. They learn foreign language better. They score better in science. They learn how to learn, and that's something that can be taken with them wherever they go. Every student has some creativity. It's not that only a handful of students are gifted, and those are the only students who have some music or art within them. Take a room of